Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick, and today's tutorial is on what to do after the holidays as far as eating. Now, I have posted my ideas about different types of diets, diets for Alzheimer's disease, diets for MS, fasting mimicking diet, keto, intermittent fasting. So there's a lot. Check out my videos or subscribe to my channel and hit the alert bell to find out when I do new videos. But coming in about 2.5 weeks is Christmas. And whether you celebrate Christmas or not, you're probably going to have, if you're employed, an office party. And when you have an office party, or be invited to an office party, even if you don't work, it's worth it. Obviously, the camaraderie we get, the sharing of emotion, the end of the year being hallmarked by that party is, I think, very peaceful. It's also reassuring, and it gets everybody together and focused on preparing for 2020 or the next year, New Year's. But the problem I see is that in many of the parties, Thanksgiving being the most recent, you will have, if it's at a restaurant, you'll probably be okay because there's a finite amount of time that you can sit at the table. I've seen some people who really languish on and they stay a lot longer than after the fourth course meal and the coffee's coming out and the dessert's coming out, but you still have a finite amount of time. In a house party, you could potentially be there for about 6 hours, and that, especially if you're surrounded by people bringing in dishes, that can be a lot of continued eating. And it's okay if it's one day, but most of us are coming off of Thanksgiving where we probably ate a little bit too much. So I like to pay it forward. Thessalonians 3:10, a proverb is, if you don't work, you don't eat. And I do think that it's important in that order to pay it forward. So if we're going to be indulging, I would suggest that if you don't want to worry about the indulgence, kind of drop the weight beforehand or put the investment in beforehand. If you wait till afterward, he who does eat does have to work. That proverb's backwards. So it's much harder to work it off. And then you have New Year's coming up, where there's usually a lot of alcohol and maybe an all-nighter. So the objective is for this tutorial to give you a couple of ideas of what to do next. So if you buy into paying it forward, then hopefully you'll see my video where I talk about, you should have been finished with it, but pushing back breakfast for this whole week. This week coming up, that was last week, but this week coming up would be intermittent fasting, picking a specific time period. And I have to say that when I gave a review of 1 meal a day, I didn't really support it because I didn't feel anything from it in 5 days. But you know what? In the last week, I've been continuing with that, kind of pushing my last meal, my eating window from 2 to about 6 or 7. And that's only a small eating window, smaller than before. Usually I'm 12 to 8, but I'm finding myself getting up earlier, going to sleep earlier, and I can't eat dinner and then go to sleep. I'll have reflux. So I have to eat earlier by default. Anyway, with that feeding window, I've kind of practiced 1 meal a day even further, and I'm seeing the benefits of 1 meal a day. So I'm not going to renege on my original, I don't like this thing, but compared to the 5-day fasting mimicking diet and the formula that Valter Longo came up with, I think it's much easier to do the FMD. However, if you can't afford the box and you want to do 1 meal a day and you have very good will and constitution and driven to get to another goal, I think the 1 meal a day is kind of doable. But as I'm sorry, I digressed a little bit, but this week is supposed to be intermittent fasting. So pick your feeding window and stick to it. Hopefully last week you just got used to not having the calories or the carbohydrates around. This week we're going to stick to a hard and fast feeding window. Hopefully you'll follow what I used to do. Start your first meal at 12 noon and end your last meal at 8 p.m. And if you have to have coffee or tea, it's okay, but don't put anything in it, because the liquid from the coffee bean or the tea and the tea leaves should not turn on the digestive juices that much, unless you have sugar cream or something in it. So don't put anything in it, and not even honey. Just drink it flat black, or have your tea has its essence. And that should be okay to quench some of your thirst, give you a little bit of something to put in your mouth, and maybe give you a little buzz, as a lot of us need that caffeine hit. Whether it's a lot of green tea, I take Gyokuro, or sometimes Sencha, or you just have black coffee, that's fine. So if you prepare for next week, the 5-day fast, you choose what you want to do, but I think it's going to set you up for success, especially after the Christmas party. Now, the idea would be you have to adapt. You have to think it out now because it's coming up fast. What are you going to adapt to after the Christmas party? You're just going to cut down, continue with 5 meals, or the 5-day fast? You can't. So the 5-day fast is meant specifically for 5 days a month or 5 days every 3 months, and that's it. The specifics of that are it's more successful than just doing that fast for the rest of your life. You can't do that. In fact, most people can't. Most Americans can't. 1 meal a day, I don't think I can continue that unless I had a goal. The goal is in 2020, I'm going to start something spectacular. So I have a driven goal to continue this, resist the hunger that comes up, and then make it. So if I didn't have that goal and I thought this was going to be unending, then I'd probably cave fast. So think about it now. And the U.S. World News Report came up with a pretty decent evaluation. They even posted the methodology, and I kind of like it. But just to give you some ideas, in case you don't know what to transition to, they came up with the #1 diet as being the Mediterranean diet. So here are the rankings. Mediterranean diet's #1. You can click on U.S. World News and Health Report. Mediterranean diet #1. The DASH diet, believe it or not, is #2. Flexitarian diet #3. Mind diet. I talked about this when I talked about eating for Alzheimer's disease. Mind diet also. And all these are about the same with their mild variations. The Weight Watchers diet, pretty cool. I have a couple patients that have done very successful with this. And Weight Watchers has changed a little bit to adapt to the new field of ketosis and fat. Mayo Clinic diet, Volumetrics diet, TLC diet. So you see, if you just, pretty good listing, and it does give you Nordic diet, Ornish diets way down here. So I'll go back up to the Mediterranean and show you how to use this. So if you go back to the Mediterranean here, and you just click on the do's and don'ts, it'll bring you to this. Pretty easy. So if you scroll down, it gives you some ideas about what you should be doing with the Mediterranean diet. So this is a great, I think it's non-biased, but you can see the advertisements over here. I wonder if that was paid for, but you can see some ideas about how to break into this kind of dieting. And it does give you links over here for the other ones and what you should and shouldn't do. Whether you cook or not, I think at least you have an idea. And so also the expert reviews that are on the next page if you click that. And there you go. So pretty decent. Gives you some nice ideas. Let's see if we can go back. So the ideas would be, if you can come up with, look through this, peruse through this, see if any of this looks like it would be challenging for you, and consider adapting something like this to what you're going to do as a dovetail to the 2020. Again, when you get intense with your nutrition restriction, it's either going to be calories, it's either going to be time or feeding time, or macronutrients and the components of the food. Those are the three big issues with, I think, most Americans. We eat too much, we always eat, and we eat the wrong thing. So if you just lower the total calories per day, I think you'll win. If you change your timing and eat only certain times, I think you'll win. If you try to avoid certain foods, regardless of your macro beliefs, just avoid certain foods, I think you'll win. Just the fact that you have a conditioned response to eat all the time, that's baked into us. Drive through, that's baked into us. Watch TV or get on these ads and see. Like if you're hungry now and you see this picture, it's like you're going to be hungrier. I'm going to be hungrier. So the idea is to just know and wait, pause for a little bit, and then see how your hunger or this emotion takes you. If you're pissed off, if you're super tired and falling asleep, no question, you're going to succumb to this, and you're probably going to eat a snack or two. But if you have a template of what you're trying to achieve, whether it's the short run and you're trying to really pay it forward before and then enjoy when the holiday comes, or it's the long run where you'll get through something in this next 2.5 weeks But starting the last week of December and the first month of 2020, I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to prepare for the Shamrock Shuffle, or I'm going to prepare for a Colorado hiking trip in August. If you see that where you're going in the transition phases that you might be challenged with, it'll make you stay on focus or on task a lot longer than just kind of saying, I'm going to do one meal a day and I'll see where we go after that. Or I'm going to do a fasting mimicking diet and I'm going to drop off and figure out what to do later. And no, you should start planning now. So that's what I usually try to do with my patients, is come up with an algorithm about after Q&A and figuring out who and what they are, who that person is sitting across from me. I think we have to ask the right questions. And once you figure out the right answers, or the answers that you elicit from somebody, you kind of come up with an idea of where to go. And not everybody's going to, you can't say, I'm going to get you to beat cancer, or I'm going to get you to beat the heart attack. I mean, ultimately, that's where you want to go, but you have to do it in steps. Sometimes the destination, if it's too far away, you can't fathom where you're going, and it's like any little bump in the road will set you off course. So you have to have a couple of little daisy chains that you have to hook together and have small successes. And then change. Maybe the success wasn't achieved and you have to revamp that. But it's always nice to have that focus, short-term and long-term, and have somebody that's on your side that can kind of fine-tune this. Now, obviously, anybody that subscribes to me knows I've been a pescatarian for a long time, and I went over to vegan as of November 2018 till now, the end of 2019. And I think it's doable. Why do I do it? I'm not sure. Well, I did it for Bob because he suffered a heart attack and I wanted to be with him and drive and feel what he was doing. But I found it very alluring, and actually my formula now is working for me. Intermittent fasting, a monthly 5-day fasting mimicking diet, a vegan practice, and it's working. It's not that hard, honestly. I don't cook, so I'm actually able to get all these things and survive. Will I be able to sustain it? I don't know. I'm planning by age 60, which is about 2.5 years from now, that I'll probably revamp everything, but that's I'll get to my first goals first. Colorado in August of 2020, another big summit, perhaps in Alaska, 2021, and then maybe Everest or Kilimanjaro, 22, 23. So that'll get me to 60, and then I can revamp and kind of focus on something else. But by that time, I'll be an empty nester, and life will change, or I'll be challenged with some other medical disease. So you see where I'm thinking here. The method is always going to be that. Look forward, prepare for what's going to happen. Don't be remorse, and don't always focus on what the bad stuff was that already happened. Just be in the present moment. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea of what to do now, how to prep for what's coming, and then maybe what to do with the transition. So check out the study. If you have your own list of different diets that you've tried or you like, please put them in the comments down below and share them with everybody else. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you at the next tutorial.